halfway through league play, and this week is a huge one for us. Really excited about Wednesday night. You know, our students and our fans have been phenomenal in our last two home games. I think it's really given us a big lift in those two games. So I'm really encouraging everybody to come out, be loud, be early, and give us as much of a lift as possible against Baylor. It makes such a big difference in these Big 12 games, both ways, when we go on the road and when we're at home. In terms of the game itself, Baylor's playing phenomenal basketball right now. They're really playing with, I would say, of everyone in the league, the most urgency and the most aggressiveness. And as a result of that, they're having a lot of fun playing basketball. So we've got to do a great job matching and exceeding that, and making sure that we stay connected around what goes into winning. Halfway through league play, there's so many little areas where we can improve, and that's where our focus is going into practice today, and a very narrow vision and focus of what we need to do today and getting better today, and not worrying too much about anything beyond that.
Questions, please? A lot of football coaches talk about whenever they have to face the option, like an academy, it's like a lot of focus on 1 week of a very unique offensive interface. It's facing that 1-3-1 that they roll out similar to that.
It's unique. It's very different than any zone that anyone else in our league plays. There's a lot of teams in our league that play some zone, mix some in, including us, but it's not really their thing. With Baylor, it's been a staple for a long time, and they do a really good job with their guys, learning to get better and better in it as they gain experience in their program, just because they've played it a lot. And it's something that they'll do more in certain games than they will others. A lot of times they'll start the game playing zone after a made basket, playing man-to-man after a missed basket, so you got to be ready to play against different defenses on different possessions. But I think the key is to make sure that you're aggressive getting the ball into the paint, and when you get the ball in the paint, you make good decisions. Then obviously being ready to shoot on the perimeter is huge. Baylor's the best rebounding team in our league on both the offensive and the defensive end. Part of that is they're doing a good job making teams miss and going and grabbing the ball. So the rebounding statistic on both ends of the floor is going to be huge.
It looks like the guys have made a more conscious effort to get in the lane, get more mid-range jumpers. Dylan especially looks like made a really good effort. Is that how you see it, or is it just? That's
been an emphasis, is just get the ball in the paint as much as we can. Obviously, we've had games where we haven't shot the ball as well from three. We've had games where we've gotten going from outside, but I don't think that's necessarily something that you can bank on every game, that you're going to shoot 40% or better from three. So to get the ball in the paint has to be a priority for us. But then the key, Brian, is to make a good decision. We've had some games recently where we've cost ourselves when we do get in the paint of turning the ball over. And in close games, typically that's a huge difference, because live ball turnovers largely lead to runouts for the other team or opportunities for them.
The reason why I asked is going back and watching some of the game yesterday. Looks like you got some really good shots. They just didn't go down. Especially Matt.
Matt got some shots in the lane. Snoop got some. Those are the two guys of our guards more than anyone that that we want to get in there. They missed a couple that we'd certainly love to have back. They'd love to have back, but the key is just to.
The concept is good.
To keep their aggressiveness high and keep them attacking. Need to try to get to the foul line more. Just knock on wood, we are shooting the ball well from the foul line. But getting in the paint, typically for us, that gives us a better chance to do that. And then if we do miss a shot, we've got to get all over the glass.
Along those lines, you mentioned the free throw. You guys are first in the league in free throw percentage, last in attempts. How do you balance the aggressiveness of, hey, we do have some open perimeter shots, but our most efficient way scoring, at least in league play, is getting to the line?
Absolutely. Yeah, I think it's just the same thing. Just putting an emphasis on getting in the paint. And if you look at like the start of the Iowa State game, we took a couple threes early because we threw the ball inside. They doubled. It came out, and you want your guys to have a confidence to just jump up and make an open three, but at the same time, if there's a crease there to drive into, you want to attack that. And some of it is, it's relative to personnel, who's to your right, who's to your left, because teams are really helping off of certain guys, and then they aren't helping as much off of other guys. So, but there's no question, when we look at the statistics, we compare our paint touch possessions to our non-paint touch possessions. It's night and day. You have a way better chance to get to the foul line, and you're going to shoot a way better percentage, obviously, from two on those possessions where you get the ball in the paint.
What's the challenge when you face a mostly zone defense in that, in the mindset of you might get an open three with 20 seconds on the shot clock, but if you've missed some, how does that change things? Well,
I think, again, just the next couple days, next 3 days, just hammering home the mentality of we have to be relentless with our pursuit of getting into the paint. And then even if we take an outside shot, the opportunity to get in the paint is not over. And one way to get in the paint is to get an offensive rebound. Again, Baylor's the best rebounding team in our league right now, so that's easier said than done, but we've got to go after them.
Shaka, do you feel like Baylor's still flying under the radar a little bit nationally?
Well, they certainly deserve to be getting a lot of attention. I don't follow a lot of the national stuff, who's getting attention, but just anytime you win that many games in a row in your league, in a league like this, including the win over Alabama and the Big 12 SEC Challenge, you deserve a ton of credit. And the way those guys are playing, they're playing with an aggressiveness and an edge and something to prove, and they're having a lot of fun, out there playing together, pulling for each other. Their bench has really been into it, so. They deserve a lot of credit for the way that they've approached the game. Last week they blew two teams out. They just flat out took them out. It's on us going into this game to make sure that we come into this game with a high level of spirit and a high level of energy, because we know just from watching what they've done that they'll be that way.
Ty Mason come off of
40 points.
You go to Snoop or Matt or all the guards and just hammer that home, that 40-point number, like maybe it's going to be a challenge?
I mean, it's a heck of a challenge. He's a really crafty, intelligent, aggressive player. He's really good at getting his own shot off, and then, when you do give him attention, finding his teammates, he can make something out of nothing, particularly at the end of the clock. It seems like every year they have a guy like that, and obviously him being a grad transfer, he's relatively new to their program, but he's jumped right in and taken the lead. And Jared Butler has really been good as well as the two of those guys, along with McClure on the perimeter, really playing with aggressiveness, driving the ball, shooting the ball with a lot of confidence. The way they've shot the ball from three is really impressive. Not just Mason, but their entire team.
They're not even that big, really.
No, Tristan Clark is a heck of a player, and he's out. But I'll tell you, if you look around our league, obviously nobody wants to have injuries, but there's some teams that, as they've had to play smaller, it makes them in some ways more difficult to deal with in certain ways, just because there's a tenacity and an aggressiveness. Mark Vidal is out there at times, matching up against five men, but he doesn't take a backseat to anyone in terms of toughness and aggressiveness and tenacity, and he's really done a good job leading their team.
You mentioned some of the teams are going to those smaller lineups, and it seems like a guy that has definitely been attacking that is Dylan. You sort of try to tell Jericho and Jackson and when they're in there, if there is the height matchup, to really try to exploit that.
Yeah, in most of the games we've played, teams typically have a pretty good size five-man. It's more the guy that they're playing at the four. That's the matchup with D.O. that we've tried to take advantage of. And in some games it's worked out better for us than others. I thought Iowa State did a good job of going down there and helping. He made one really good post move in the second half and scored. other than that, they did a good job at least taking away his scoring. But yeah, our five men, we want to get the ball. When Jericho's in the game, we want to get him the ball so he can attack. He made a heck of a move against Kansas the first time we got it to him. Then we went right back to him, and he got a little bit tentative the next time. But yeah, against Baylor, it's a little bit different because mostly they'll be in zone. So it's not necessarily the matchup one-on-one, although against their zone, there is an opportunity if you do your work early to seal and post inside against the guy that is playing in the middle. So we definitely need to get those guys the ball, and they need to be aggressive. There's been games going back, against Baylor where we've done a good job getting it in there, but we haven't necessarily scored. I remember one game, we threw it in there to Prince eBay and Shaq Clear time and time again, but they did a really good job walling them up, and we weren't able to score off of it. They're not quite as big this year as they had been in previous years, so hopefully that's something we can take advantage of.
Our defense is slow playing, Dylan. Like, because there's a couple times, especially Saturday, where it's like the double team was like wait one, wait two, and then the double would come. Are they waiting to see what he does first?
It's different depending on the team. Kansas was doubling them, right away, but sometimes he was literally catching the ball at the 3-line and backing them down. So
right, yeah.
then they come. What Iowa State was doing was more of, what we would call hard dig. So they were coming off of a perimeter player and, at first maybe halfway and then, almost all the way. So that's where, it's up to Dylan to make that decision, and he's really good at that. He's good at making decisions in the post when the ball goes into him. I think there are opportunities sometimes for him to go make a quick move. And again, he had one really, really good one in the second half where he got to his right hand. But when they are doing that, like I said, digging the post or halfway, you almost have to kind of make your mind up, okay, I'm going to make this quick move early. Otherwise, the help's going to come and you're going to have to pass it out. Which, that's not a bad option if we make the shot, and if we make the right play coming out of it.
You've been through the entire league except for Baylor, right?
Yes.
So who looks like the best team in the league to you?
It depends on the night, really, to be honest. And I think that's kind of an underrated thing is like when you catch teams, I think there's several teams in our league that, on any given night could be the best. And there's even more teams in our league on any given night that could beat anybody. So I think Baylor's playing the best, and they're playing when you combine offense and defense, they're playing at a high level on both those ends. There's a lot of teams in our league that are still really working to gain consistency in terms of like who they really are on both ends of the floor. Maybe they get it on one night on offense, but not so much on defense. And we're certainly one of those teams. So these last 9 games in league play, it's going to be all about, who can put stretches together, prolonged stretches over several games where you're able to be on both ends of the floor the best version of yourself.
Do you think, 8-10 teams got in last year, do you think an 8-10 record gets in the tournament?
I don't know. I don't really even focus on that. I just want to go 1-0 on Wednesday. I think our league every year is really, really good and really competitive. You have the vast majority of the teams that, at least at this point in the season, have a real opportunity, to make noise in the postseason. But there's 9 games left, so there's so much work to be done. And again, for us, the message to our guys and our staff is, let's focus on today. And, in terms of our opponents, let's focus on this next opponent and put everything we have into winning this game.
With Matt, it seems like there have been certain times where he's really, hunting his shot and being aggressive, and then other times where he sort of steps back, is maybe trying to play more of a facilitator role. And, I think last game was maybe his season high in shot attempts.
Yeah.
Where do you kind of want him to be on a game-to-game basis?
Yeah, I think he's working to gain a feel for that. I thought in the Kansas game he he had one of his better games, and he only scored 2 points. So it's not, we're not going to evaluate him by the number of points that he scores. I would say in general, when he leads us in shot attempts, it's probably not the best. Although, I don't think he took a lot of bad shots against Iowa State. There were actually some good shots in the paint that, I think he could have knocked in. He obviously had a layup taken away in the first half. So, we want him to be aggressive. Teams are going to give him sometimes the opportunity to shoot the ball from outside. I think he is shooting with a little more confidence than he was earlier in the year. But the biggest key, to be honest with you, is not so much the shots. It's he's got to value the ball, and he's got to help our team as the floor leader out there value every possession. Because, when he has a turnover, our team has a turnover, we don't get a good shot because we're not in proper spacing. Again, that oftentimes leads to an opportunity for the other team to go score. So that not only is a 0-point possession for us, but it may be 2 or 3 points for them in these close games. That makes all the difference.
He said that video that you just really hit home. Maybe because it was PJ, I don't know, or what. But I wish I'd have known that before you and I talked at the game Saturday, how he felt about it. But he said that you told him, I've been waiting 1.5 years on you, to play like that.
Well, sometimes when you hit guys with a message over and over and over again, but then they maybe hear it from a different angle, it sinks in for some reason. I showed him that because, PJ and Matt are very, very close. And he's gone through his own process, and it's easy from the outside looking in to romanticize about some other team or some other player, but everyone's gone through their own twists and turns. And so the key for Matt is, as I was trying to demonstrate to him in that video, that he starts everything with having a great level of spirit, a great level of energy, and focusing on making the guys around him better. I think he's doing a good job of that. I think he can take another step with that. He still has to understand that sometimes it's not about being Mr. Nice Guy. Dylan actually has taken a real step with that. So we need Matt to help Dylan in that way. We need Snoop to help Dylan in that way. And that's how our team will be our best going down the stretch.
Chucky played 2 really good games since Georgia. Is that a new catchphrase, remember Georgia? I don't know if they were embarrassed by that.
Well, we don't use that catchphrase, but we do use, and I'm sure you'll probably use this against me at some point. But we do use, and we've done this several years. What we call ugly reminders is we'll just take certain clips or even pictures, from times where we weren't our best, and I think, it's not about us being negative in any way. It's about us letting the guys know, hey, if you don't defend in the stance, here's what happens. If you don't sprint back on defense, here's what happens. If we don't start the game with a level of urgency, because the reality is, we can sit around as coaches and say these guys shouldn't need that or they should always be, but they do need that. And, that's why they'll continue to get the reminders.
Did you feel like last week you played your best ball of the year?
I think in stretches, I think the best thing that I take out of last week is that our guys really were connected around wanting to win the game, both in both games, and that sounds like a given, but that is it's not, and it's something that I appreciate that those guys had that mentality in the Iowa State game. Our details and some of the things that go into us either scoring or stopping them in the last 6 minutes of the game, we didn't do well enough, and that's why we won. And Iowa State deserves a lot of credit. I mean, Nick Weiler-Babb just hit 2 unbelievably tough shots, and that's what good teams do when you make a run on them. But yeah, I think from the standpoint of our guys' connectivity, that was it was a step in the right direction, and now we need to continue taking steps.
3 or 4 last ones.
You mentioned the prolonged stretches. I mean, are the play and maybe more specifically the mindset of Matt, Snoop, and Dylan the most important factor in getting to one of those prolonged stretches? And if so,
Yes.
how do you guys try to do whatever you can to make sure that when they get out there, I mean,
Just try to spend as much time as the answer to your first question is yes, and then just try to spend as much time around those guys, making it crystal clear for them how they can be their best. First and foremost, mentality-wise and approach-wise and leadership-wise, and then secondly with some of the basketball specifics. You know, those guys have been playing for a while, but I don't think as a coach you can take for granted that they necessarily, you know, don't need some of those details provided for them on a daily basis. So, you know, when I leave here, go film do the radio or the TV show, and Dylan's going to be on it, and it give me a chance to spend a little time with him and talk to him about, you know, some stuff going into this next game. And he's great about that, and as is Matt and Snoop. So we need to keep, you know, winning the battle first and foremost for their hearts and minds, and then providing them with the proper amount of detail without overloading them with, because we don't want them out there trying to think too much.
Just in terms from like a frustration standpoint, do you sense just because y'all have beaten some really good teams and pretty much all these losses have been 4 or 5 points, 2 points, is that the biggest sense of frustration for the guys, that they know that they can be right there and they have done it before, and it's just getting to do that on a game-to-game consistent basis?
I think it's just having an urgency to connect any type of painful feelings that you have coming off of a loss, or looking back on a loss or a couple losses, to connect those feelings with the exact details that go into being better the next time. Because, when the ball goes up in the air on Wednesday at 7 o'clock, we have an actual opportunity to go do something about those feelings. Lamenting about that stuff or feeling frustrated, it doesn't really help you unless there's action that follows. So that's the big emphasis to these guys. That's why practice is so important today, tomorrow, shoot around, because we do need to get better at details. And every time we do something on the court, it's for that specific intention. But yeah, I think there's a natural disappointment. I was texting with Jackson Hayes when I was walking over here, and he said, I'm still mad about the game. I said, good. I mean, that's how it should be. And now we need to do something about it.
Where is Eli at right now? I mean, if he just played 14 or 15 minutes combined with games, just where is he at, and how do you get him going? Yeah,
we'd love to get him going. He's a guy that can provide us a real spark when he's in a good place. I think he wants to help his team. Confidence is something that we need to help him build. Again, when you're not playing a great deal, the best place to do that is practice and extra work. But he's definitely a guy that we'd love to get out there more when he's in a good place to provide energy for his teammates, make guys around him better. He does have leadership capabilities. His attitude's been good, of late, but it's just he's not. I don't think he's in the best place confidence-wise, which is understandable. But we need to help him build that.
Anthony, then Robert.
It's a crazy off-the-wall question, Coach. But when Tom Brady ties Michael Jordan for 6 titles, I'm not saying Tom surpasses MJ as the greatest athlete in pro sports. Are there differences in their greatness, Coach?
Wow. Big time shift.
I just want to get your thoughts.
No, it's a great question. First of all, I didn't watch the Super Bowl, but
you didn't miss anything.
I heard that Tom Brady won, and I'm not surprised. Now, I think the thing that, and I actually got a chance to meet Greg Harden a couple weeks ago, who's one of Tom Brady's mentors from back when he was at the University of Michigan, and he helped Tom with the mental part of the game and a psychological approach, going back to when he was the third-string quarterback. I think what those great players all have in common is, as much as you possibly can, they have mastered that mental, psychological side of it. And clearly for him at his age, he literally is able to control his body with his mind. And when you think about for us coaching college guys, that's really the biggest challenge is helping these guys get to the point where they can use their minds in a positive way to control what they're doing, as opposed to the other way around. Is he the great? I always got to side with MJ, but because I'm a basketball guy, but pretty phenomenal winning 6 Super Bowls.
Robert?
Jace has talked a little bit about developing as an all-around player this season, and you have too a little bit. How do you think he's progressing in that role as the season's gone on, and what have you seen from him as of late?
I think he's progressing well. He gets really down on himself. He's hard on himself. So the biggest thing that we need to help him overcome is, those moments where he, misses a couple shots or a couple things don't go his way. He had obviously the unfortunate foul at Iowa State. And being able to internalize what he can do to improve on those plays, because that is part of your job as a player. But at the same time, not just completely beat yourself up as a person or as a player, because you can still play. You can still go make the next play really well. And that's where we are, just trying to help him with those recoveries. He's made a lot of progress. He shot the ball much better this year than he did last year. I think he has even another notch in him another jump that he can take. But he's young. I mean, he's a young sophomore. We knew that when we signed him. His birthday's in July. He's a guy that his best basketball is still way ahead of him. And the good thing for him is that last year, because of circumstances, he got way more experience than he probably would have if everyone would have been healthy and out on the floor. He's been able to get a lot of experience that I think will be beneficial for him. The hard thing as a younger player is you go through some of the challenging times, and it doesn't always feel the best, but you gotta find a way to utilize that and keep making progress. But if he steps back and sees the bigger perspective, he should feel good about the progress he's made and understand that there are continued steps that he can take.